Welcome, one and all, to the Tactical Crouch Job Fair. Here we have two and maybe three, depending on how you view moi, potential candidates for your playoffs attention. Today we're joined by esteemed collegiate contenders, Chinese visionary Kenobi himself, brother in the top left today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Really happy to be back here, talk some Overwatch with you guys. It's been quite a while. I think last time I was here was before the OWL season started, which is wild to say, given how quickly the time has gone by. So, yeah, happy to be back. Happy to chat with you guys. Happy to talk about some teams that I am rather familiar with that are going to be at playoffs.
True.
So, yeah, that's going to be very, very fun.
Speaking of playoffs, we're going to be talking a bit about the playoffs, the patch, Yiska. What you been doing?
I was just wondering, like, I just spotted something in what Kenobi said that made me happy because, you know, as an old person, I've time dilution or like, you know, squeeze. I conceive of time differently. Mm-hmm. I read once that, like, basically in terms of how you perceive time, by the time you're like 27 or something, half of your life is over. So
I am 27, so
well, this is exactly the middle point of your life. Like we hit it. We hit it exactly.
Oh, God.
And
this is Kenobi's halfway point. I'm so sorry.
But
what a way to spend it.
I know, right?
Did it also feel like a very quick season to you guys? Even though, yes, like it dragged out and I was fatigued, but holy, it went like so fast.
I can't believe
Very
I'm
fast.
going to be in Anaheim next week and like watching it end. Like it's crazy to me that it's gone this quickly. And it's like I didn't even like think about it until I bought my tickets to Anaheim to go to the playoffs, and I was like, oh, like we're gonna have it be over at the, isn't it? And then as we like kept going on and on, I was like, wow, it really has gone extremely quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
It's been a wild season.
I don't know why that is. Like, it feels like we had a decent amount of matches. It was more matches than last year, right?
More tourneys, too.
More tournaments. We had a mid-season, you know, like a high point event there. It shouldn't feel that, you know, quickly. I guess time passes when you're having fun. I think, yeah, this was maybe not my favorite season ever, but a regular season ever, but maybe second most favorite.
Mm-hmm. I'm definitely down with it. I think there were a lot of good narratives this season too. Speaking as like a caster, that's kind of what I'd like to talk about a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think the narratives this season were like, I think last season we actually had some really good ones, especially between Dallas and Shanghai, but those like tempered off towards the back end because Shanghai was just so dominant. This season, it's like, you know, we had Glads earlier in the season. We had like a resurgence of Dallas when, you know, we went to Toronto. Proper, obviously, talked about a lot everywhere, but I think that there's been a lot of really good stuff this season. And going into the playoffs that we'll talk about a bit later, I don't really think that there's like a true like head of the pack so much so as it was last season. Last season, it was very much like, you know, who's going to beat Shanghai? Can anyone actually even beat Shanghai?
Yeah.
The answer was no, and it was pretty emphatic as well.
Yeah.
It's mostly everyone else fighting for. This season, it's like I can see like 6 teams probably having a chance, especially with, you know, a potential playoff path.
Can I ask for one thing? And I think that's always probably a good thing to sort of keep in mind because, I mean, yeah, we weren't offline that much. I think that detracts a little bit from it. It was a new game. I think that has to be counted in. Mm-hmm. What's your MMF? What's your Mickie Mouse factor for this season? Like, how meaningful is this?
Oh, how meaningful is this season? I mean, Mickey, on like a scale of 1 to 10, is that what you're
here, Kenobi? I'm gonna save you here because there's one the baseline of Mickie Mouse Factory has to be hero pools, right?
That's true. That's true.
That has to be the baseline for Mickie Mouse.
I would rather take the whole season we had of Junker Queen, or the whole like stage we had of Junker Queen over hero pool. Like I really, I wasn't like the biggest fan of Junker Coats, and I had to deal with it is a pretty decent amount through contenders as well. Because like through A sides and B sides, all we did was Junker Queen. There was no other meta at the time really, because of like where we were in balance patch cycle and stuff like that. And I ended up getting a bit tired of it towards the back end, except that the problem is that as we got to the back end, the good teams actually were like playing it very well, even in contenders and like in Overwatch League. I think that like genuinely the one play I'll always talk about with Junker Queen goes is I think it's given us the best Overwatch 2 play so far in history with Hanbin against San Francisco Shock when he rampages into 5 people and like brings it back from like a 2v5. Right. Like I think that's probably the best play we've had. So there are like good moments. There were a lot of really good moments I think throughout the entirety of the season so far. And Mickie Mouse factor, everyone was like, oh, Mickie Mouse meta, Mickie Mouse meta. And yes, it was a very big delineation from what we had previously with mid-season madness and what was it? Kickoff Clash was the first one, I think.
The first one.
So there's a little bit of that, and it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of goes forward with the patch that we're going to have before playoffs.
Now you're talking about some big playmakers, and we have to thank the big playmakers that make this show possible. That's going to be our Patreon producers and our YouTube members. So, episode 268 of Tactical Crouch is brought to you by Avril Vista, Bebe, Battle Crab, Refined Bead, Bronze Babu, Hal Picasso, Chris R34444, Kasha67, Lulshin, Porkchop Sammy, Rexane, Stuck in Bronze, and our YouTube members, Isam Jello, William Jesse, Bishmam, Fire Element 6, AK, Chris R, Brother, Stuck in Bronze, Samuel Sparza, Adam L, and Sagi Fumi. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Continue what you were talking about with big playmakers, because I agree. One thing I do want to hop in,
real quick, Joe.
About
you just invented your own flow in like like everyone else just had like their own. Like I felt like John was always riding it. Like he had a cadence. You just brought like a you just invented the new
a little bit of
vibe.
Spice on top of that one.
That's a different flow now.
I mean, it's true. Everybody's got their own way of doing things, I suppose. I don't know. I'm weirdly self-conscious about that now. But thank you for keeping me up. Thank you for feeding my anxiety.
I feel like that. I feel like this was the equivalent of drill of sponsorship introduction.
Okay.
When's the drill track from Volamel happening?
let me pose this to you, because I think it like combines what Kenobi was saying and something that Yiska's talked about at length, going back to Overwatch 1 a little bit. One of Yiska's like big things was that like trying to message to fans like what is a big play, what is not a big play. And you talk about Junker Queen. I think one of the big examples that he kind of hammered home really early on, going back to like Takeover 2 era stuff, was like Earth Shatter is like very obvious something has happened and it's like very visceral and like everything about it is like so well designed. Do you think that like Junker Queen's ult in a similar way is kind of like in that same compound of like it's very obvious when this hits and it happens and everybody goes crazy and the arena erupts? It's not something like a Grav where it's kind of hard to tell or hard to see. I mean, maybe Grav's a hard one, but
as much as I think that it was overtuned, Junker Queen was,
sure,
and the fact that you can the fact that you are able to see visually like 5 people get hit by the ult, right? It's basically like a nade, which I think visual indicators a lot of the time do help. I mean, Shatter, it's a little bit different. You do have like the tiny like little stars on the UI, but you also just see people fall to the ground, right? That's kind of, so you do have that visual indicator. And when Hanbin's going in, I mean that play, he's literally like a millisecond away from it just flipping and San Francisco wins and it's over. But he goes in, hits 5 people. He's hitting 5 people. I was in the arena for that, and like the place was going bonkers. Like it was so loud. And I think like as he's bringing it back, you're starting to realize what exactly has happened here. And that little visual indicator, I think, is a big deal in conveying the kind of momentous occasion that you are witnessing. Probably more so than like a couple of the other like big, like Overclock was one that I'll use in that meta specifically. Overclock, let's be real, you just shoot stuff and like it's good. Like you can have like Merit, getting like the triple beam, right? I think stuff like that's super sick. But like it's not as like flashy in the sense that like visually
doesn't communicate.
Junker Queen rampages. Yeah.
It's also like I feel like Overclock is used. And I'm not sure what the agreement there is with observers. They probably just look at like kill rates and whatnot. But like most of the time you really only go into first person on the overclock after like 2 kills. And then it almost feels like over, right? Like unless the observer's already on it and anticipating that, it's probably rather going to be a highlight. So it's not as impactful, I feel, right? Like also generally an ultimate that just does more of the kit just feels like, even if I play Sojourn, like it's a powerful ultimate, but it's just more of the same, you know? So like in that, I think Shatter in terms of like in-game impact, how it hits, like it's really like an earth shatter, and like the sound design of it is still the gold standard of like feeling the visceral impact of an ultimate. Dude, did you guys see the play by Lulsish that he put on Twitter?
Yeah, the bait shatter. Yeah.
Dude, that shit was not... So, to explain to viewers, in the clip, Lulsish charges towards Cloudy, baits a counter charge, and then stops charging, because you can do that now, evades the charge and hits like a 3 or 4 man shatter, right? And then kills the team. And the best thing about that tweet was, like, someone added Cloudy under the tweet with like, "Yo, what happened there?" And he's like, "I don't see the issue. I wasn't stunned."
It's not his fault. It's not his fault his team died. It's not.
Yeah, no. Like,
he get shattered.
That was such a base thing. By the way, like that interaction is. I hope that happens sometime. Dude, if that happens in an arena, we're pogging, dude. Like that, it's over. It's over at that point, right? So
I mean, you guys are kind of talking about, some of these heroes. Obviously, Sojourn coming off of a big, stage, and exiting the Countdown Cup is definitely a pick that is still on the table for a lot of people. And obviously, we have some reported patch notes out there. So for the two of you, where do you think we're going? Where do you think we're ending the 2022 season? Is this, are we brawling it out? Are we diving? Where's the meta wins taking us?
Okay, so
I'll let the Yiska go first.
Okay, here's the thing, right? It's unfortunately at a too early point to say like we've consolidated. And this is, by the way, an interesting insight I had from the interview with Face. And I asked him basically, because in my mind, okay, meta is a social construct first and foremost. Why? Because the chances of finding the Nash equilibrium, so the best possible strategy in 1 week or even on the first scrim day, is like 0 to none, right? We can agree it's like very unlikely that we're finding the meta optimum. So what is actually the meta at that point? Well, probably whatever the strongest team can dominate scrims with for a relatively long amount of time, it then spreads across the league. Everyone sort of, bows down to that meta idea, unless they have an alternatively rivaling thing, because maybe they can't play that meta because they don't have the guys for that, and they have a better chance with something else. Or because all the meta interpretations, sort of like in a rock, paper, scissors way, are all relevant. So what Face told me is the best way he found to find your meta is to like first scrim block on a new meta, everyone locks onto their favorite picks and sees what works and what doesn't, right? And then you just keep cutting away from the action, right? So I think that's currently what's happening as well. So we don't have any true meta interpretation. I will say the following. There was some hog. Some teams were running hog, and I was like, no.
Not again. We did this in season 3.
Funny. And there was... so basically, like, some teams told me the week beforehand, before we got the patch, but they already played Kiriko, right? And some people told me that's not true, and there were more meta comps, but it seemed like a bunch of them were playing Winston, Sojourn, Reaper, Kiriko, Lucio. And then there were some variations with like Sojourn on the as Tracer maybe, or something like this, right? I think there are worlds where you can probably do something with the main tank there. I think there are worlds where you have different DPS. Lucio Kiriko feels pretty sticky. We'll see.
I mean, if it is dive, just speed, teleport in.
Yeah.
Golden.
I mean, I'll also say, I think if you still have the old Zarya, there probably was also just a bunch of Zarya in the week beforehand, right?
Yeah.
Like last week. So this week, like we'll have to see. Everyone scrims. The APAC teams are coming in. Maybe they have a different meta read, and this always shakes things up. So APAC traveled in on Monday, and then NA is going to travel tomorrow. And there's also like a car wash thing for content. So there's not as much going on tomorrow, right? But at this point, like, I don't even think there is a definitive meta. I think that's...
it sounds like there's at least like a core.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's some ideas that are running around that are popular.
I think, yes, that's probably true. But I could see a world where we play like fixing the boat while we are driving it type of thing.
Yeah.
Fixing the holes.
Right.
That reaches into like in the middle of the playoffs. So something that I could easily see happen is like one favorite drops to the lower bracket early, figures something out, and then has a run.
Right.
Now, another thing that we have to consider here is, and this is unfortunately really, messing with the Mickie Mouse factor for me. The lower bracket final and the grand final on the same day, 30 minutes apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
You've
You've got plenty of time. I don't know whose decision that was, but I feel like that's kind of a mistake.
Yeah. The problem is I understand in some ways because if you delay
did do
it
that in Toronto.
Yeah. If you delay it a week, right? Then those teams have nobody to scrim. Everyone's already on vacation, right? If you do it,
you don't want to delay
it
a week.
If you do it on the next day, you're trying to find an audience that like you gotta compartmentalize in some ways. I'm not sure how you do it then. It's not optimal, and it makes it a little bit Mickey Mousey. I gotta say, right? Like, so
sure.
Not a fan of that. Needs to be evaluated in lower bracket runs, I think, as well. Doesn't necessarily make it harder, but theoretically. But yeah, I think generally speaking, takeaway here is Lucio Kiriko looks pretty strong as a backline. Face told me he could see that everyone plays Kiriko. He could see that also won't be the case. There are situations, dude, like where on a Friday, or on the last day of scrims, everyone suddenly realizes, okay, this is king, and everyone switches, and the next day the competition is run on that meta. So it's really hard at this point to make any predictions. I hope we land in a pretty open meta state. I think the obvious kingmakers, such as Zarya, are probably nerfed enough that isn't clearly like a best thing. Yes, Genji. They hurt some of the breakpoints there. So yeah, I think good news is for now it remains fairly open. Not sure if it consolidates. Not sure if we have time to create flavor that we want. I think there's an argument that the less time you have with a patch, the less likely you make it that teams will play their own styles. But it also, of course...
Oh, you think so? I would say that it increases.
No, because
that's the only thing you can count on, right?
The problem is that if nothing's working with your comp and you cannot really figure out a thing, then you at some point you gotta pull the parachute and just go with the comp that seems strongest.
I think that I think that's I have seen success, quote unquote, in teams doing the opposite of that, where it's like you just play what you're good at. Like I remember specifically Misfits versus, and this is a league reference, but Misfits versus T1, I think is like an example of like a team knowing very well that like we can't match T1 in the mirror, so we're just gonna play like Blitzcrank or Fervor of Battle Leona, right? Like, which
Yeah,
you know, potentially people
get a
aren't gonna
cheese
know,
in
but
there.
it's
whatever.
just basically like cheesing the state of the
Gimmick
game
a-
essentially,
gimmick a
and
win.
like no one's play like if like there could be a potential where it's like, oh, okay, like what if we're playing like Kiriko's not working for us, we just don't have the way to play it, we just bust out Zen, oh crap, Zen suddenly just like is an unreal hero right now, and
Yep.
you know, they start playing their way, and that's kind of how it goes. I think that there is a tendency obviously to like do the thing where you're just like, yeah, we have to play what's strongest, but if there's like a team where it's like a Chengdu, for instance, even though they're not at this tournament, but like that mindset where it's like when they were in play-ins, they're just like, yo, screw it, man, we're playing Winston. Like, what are you gonna do about it? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't like we have a very good Winston player. Can you even deal with us? And Charge couldn't. Spark eventually could, but there is that like ability to just try and circumvent entirely the strength of the meta with something that you are just good at, especially in this like very, very volatile time that we're in.
I think as well that you kind of have to. I think the world needs to kind of wake up to that. I think was kind of taught to at least the Overwatch community with the GOATS meta is that when everybody is drilling the same core, maybe even the same composition of heroes for months, maybe even years on end, inoptimal things become way more viable. Again, operative word there is viable, not optimal, right? Like, you're never going to beat a great GOATS team with GOATS, but can you prey on like some wounded, plagued GOATS teams that just can't get their shit together with triple DPS or some, Blitzcrank Heimerdinger type stuff? I think you can, and I think it's really difficult for teams to probably get players to buy into that. But I think as we get a little bit more mature in esports, I think we're going to wake up to the idea that like
it happened at all. I mean, because like remember Shanghai, that team in stage 3, that team was playing the best GOATS team that we had in the world right there, which was the Shock, and they said, screw the meta, we're going to like, obviously GOATS had been nerfed like a little bit at that time, so it wasn't necessarily as strong, but it's still the Shock playing it, and it's still those group of players, and they said, it doesn't matter. We have like the best Hog player in the world right now. We have the best Pharah player potentially in the world right now. And, Ding and Youngjin, we're going to just use those. And it ended up working for them. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see kind of how it would evolve from there because then we got roll lock. But like, it is possible to have those times. And you're right. It does take I think it takes like a coach like Moon or someone like that to be like, guys, I can trust you on like, the things that you're the best at. And I think this is something Ray was actually really good at when he was coaching Chengdu. He had an exuberant amount of faith in the quality of his players to play a certain hero, which I think is something that there are like, I think coaching is very hard for me to talk about because I don't know too much about it, but I know that about Ray in specific, given everything I heard and read about him, he very much had faith in his players to like, just play whatever they wanted, and that's why Chengdu did find a lot of success a lot of time on stuff that wasn't necessarily the most meta at the time. Like
they made like ball goats a thing, right? Like, I think there is something to the idea of I've talked to Kenobi about this a little bit, so maybe Yiska can hammer this apart. But like the idea between like carpenters and bakers, right? I don't send a carpenter to a baking competition, and vice versa. I don't send my baker to an engineering school, right? And I think a lot of teams, for a lot of different ways, in a lot of different esports, are bakers when they should be carpenters. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, we're just deciding to
B1
shove the trunk,
dude. B1 we're just doing it.
We're just gonna do it because like that's the thing to do, and like it's socially acceptable that's just the thing you do. And it's just like, no, like, you have so many like colorful pieces to your team because everybody's unique, that I hope and I wish, and not every piece is going to be valuable on a certain patch, of course. Like, that's not what I'm saying. Like, oh, just go play Symmetra. Like, of course not. But when you have the Chengdus, the Londons, I think G2 back in the day was the team that did a lot of Heimerdinger stuff. Like, There are plenty of different examples throughout esports. I think it's Street Fighter 4, like Rose being like a big staple that was viewed. I think I'm remembering that correctly. Forgive me, FGC, if I'm not. I think there are a lot of like untested toolkits. There are a lot of like really, really talented players on these more niche heroes that can really, force viability in a world that says, no, you're not viable. So I hope we see that. I
think that's also has recently been like a big topic in sports, or in American sports, as far as I could tell, is like the difference between a play that is empirically most efficacious and what is commonly accepted, and what should the head coach do, right? And it feels like, to a degree, you're now in a conflict of interest, because if the thing you can empirically prove is better, and you do, but it's not accepted, if you do that, then it might cost you your job. If you do the generally accepted thing that you know is worse, then that might mean job security, right? And I think initially, and I think we've gotten over the hump in that particular regard. We had that with Outlaws, right? In the discussion around like playing the meta in during GOATs. And I think we're mostly over the hump now. I don't think there's really any pressure, social pressure on people to play any sort of comps. Sometimes there is, right? Like sometimes they're like the perception feels pretty interesting in how that works. I think sometimes the obvious solution actually has been the correct one this season. So stuff like, I think you should not play Reiner here. I think you should play Space. There was a commonly held opinion in the community. I think in the end, that probably turned out to be true. Once again, the complexity of why that is true is, of course, not
way more in depth.
Yeah, but like sometimes it just like, it can be true on a low level of sophistication, high level of sophistication as well. There were a couple of other examples, but yeah, I think generally speaking, I hope there's no stigma against coaches just trying to do their best, because honestly, there's nothing worse than a team just flanking out, performing like, let's say, the 6th best team on the established meta composition, going into the tournament playing that and finishing 6th. You did nothing here. Like, that's just like, it's safe stuff. Okay, you didn't take any chances. You wanted to finish mediocre. Like, you should get no laurels for that, right? What you should be doing is doing some, like, you can do that against play 7, 8, 9. Maybe you don't want to dilute your practice, by the way. So maybe you should always play the weird stuff that can maybe get you a win, right? In my mind, also, like I'd if I had an average team has like maybe like a 5% chance, like one of the lower ranking teams, a 5% chance to make it to the grand finals, right?
Of course.
So if I can play a wild comp, a super wild comp, and I can just bump it to like 6%,
go for it.
Of course, I take that. Take that every day.
Even if that means the rest of the percentages means most of the time I will end dead last in the playoffs. No, I should be doing that gamble, and I know that there it becomes like a socially unacceptable thing, because like if you get 0-3 slapped and you played some dumb stuff, then most people will say, okay, well, lol, what the hell did you do? How did you think that would be working? They don't know the scrim results, right? I think in the heart of hearts, you can know that this was your best shot at winning, and what like beyond like the monetary incentive of finishing higher, like everyone that's in that position that is currently in playoffs should have the heart of the champion, should always be gunning, like should be throwing their curveball just to have a chance at number 1. Like, why would you try to just maximize your average ranking? That doesn't make sense.
True. Yeah. So I'm gonna throw a softball to the two of you. Maybe this isn't a softball. Maybe it is. Do you of the teams going to playoffs, which team is most likely to be the team we're referencing, right? Like, which is the team that has the identity? Which is the team
London.
in your mind?
True.
Kenobi says London. Yiska,
London.
you think London as well?
Or Florida.
I think if there is ever a team that is going to be
I
like
agree.
the misfits of this tournament, it's London. I think they are. And the thing about it is like what Misfits did in just context is like they didn't beat T1, right? But they pushed them all the way to 5 games, which at the time was like unheard of that this random team out of EU was going to ever beat the world champions.
Right,
T1.
ever challenge.
And this isn't like us saying like, you know, London's going to win the tournament, right? But like finishing 3rd or 4th for London is something
That's
that
incredible.
I totally can it's incredible, and it's something I actually totally can see happening. Like if we get to a point where it's like this Rhine composition is unbeatable, they're the best ones at playing it. I don't think anyone really else can play it, and it's a little bit of that Chengdu thing where it's like there's no one else like London. Right? London is very much the team with the most identity, I would say, left in this tournament. I think these could also mention Florida, which I would agree with too, but London's that team where it's like this team can definitely be the quote unquote dark horse of the tournament.
Before we get too deep into the team specific talk, I do want to talk about kind of the meat and potatoes of the show, which is we're going to be kind of doing a little power ranking on some brief or some very loose meta, ideas, right? Taking some of our ideas of what the patch is going to be and, taking that and trying to transplant it onto some of these teams and looking at, the bottom up. We're going through the bottom seeds, giving each team a power ranking, maybe a brief window or a range on how much they're going to be, talking about them for a couple minutes, and then kind of moving our way up. So as long as we're all ready to transition here, I believe we're going to be starting with our 12th team.
That's
my favorite team. I'm my favorite team, the Spark.
Oh, so what are we doing with the Spark,
dude? The thing is,
I can't with this team. I was here before the season started. I was here, and I said that this team on paper is one of the best teams. Could be easily top 2 APAC. Could be top 5 world.
And I feel like we saw glimpses.
But watch them finish 4th, and that was pre-Chengdu blow-up. So they finished 4th behind Philly. This team is like, I don't know what is with this team. Every single season, I feel like I have the same conversation about the Spark. It's just that the pieces are there. The talent is there. The meme about that. This team has so many good players. Shy, for one tournament, was the MVP of the tournament, I would say. You could argue, I think, that he was the best performing Sojourn, I think, statistically, and he was carrying this team.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow then they're in this playoffs with a losing record. Like, how is that even possible?
For me, like Spark, every season they're like experiencing mid-season crisis or some shit. Like there's some like 45-year-old divorced dad just buying a Corvette and putting it into their backline for no reason, right? Like come on, man. And then they're like, oh, maybe family life wasn't so bad. And then they go back to the tried and true, and then they steal the entertainment that I could have gotten out of Chengdu. Like, come on, man.
For me, it wasn't even Chengdu. I feel like
Charge was
my team. Yeah. I was like, I think if that play-ins match goes a little bit differently, I think Charge probably gets here like 9 times out of 10.
The problem is,
if Chengdu doesn't reverse sweep Charge,
yes,
100%, I think Charge is in this.
Yeah, I think so.
They're the New York for last year. I thought New York should have been in the playoffs
because I think the reason Spark is here is because Chengdu was in that spot playing Winston. I don't think that Spark would have played Winston had it not been Chengdu in that scenario, because I don't think Guangzhou, based on what we saw from them, were willing to at all opt into that. They did not want any smoke from Gaga. Gaga obliterated like the Charge, and I don't think if the Charge get to the Spark, I think they just play like Sigma Mirror or Zarya Mirror, right? And then Spark probably just don't win.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think it's not even. That's why I don't think like. it was the Spark who were entertainment thieves. Like Charge already fucked it up against Chengdu, right?
I think it's Charge's fault. It is absolutely Charge's fault. I think for not beating Chengdu when they were up 2-0 and
They had the bag,
letting Gaga just absolutely pound onto. I think Hickey was playing the entire series. He might not have been. I don't remember. I was watching it. Can't recall. But like Gaga was just unreal.
Now here's the problem. Here's the problem. Here's the problem, Joe. Despite everything we just said, you also know that this team can actually just have like a stellar performance and just
of course
finish
they can.
like top
they can
4.
win the tournament, bro. They can win the tournament.
It pisses me off so hard.
They could make a run.
This team is so annoying to talk about every year.
It's
like,
unreal.
Put me 112 because I genuinely think that, especially if the meta is going the way that we are thinking is, if this is like a meta where it's like Winston, you've got Gusha, who, as good as Gaga was, Gusha put Gaga in a body bag during their series. Like Gusha still said, I am him. I am one of the best Winstons to ever touch this game. And like did incredibly well. Sojourn's still in the meta potentially. And you've got Shy, who during midseason madness was one of the best players to like on the planet. Everyone is talking about potentially even giving him MVP votes because of that performance. It's a gift wrapped meta for them where they could, if they're firing on all cylinders, go to and win this tournament. Just run through it. And they could also just get 0-6'd and leave the day after.
Immediately.
Like there is such a high volatility about this team. And I feel like the entire organization, because I remember when I was casting Billy in Chinese Contenders and Shy was on that team and they were always like the best team, but they never could pull it together when it counted. And that feels like it's always the thing about Spark. Spark, I mean, got knocked out of midseason madness because Fixa hit a random sleep dart onto Shy and then won them the map. Like if that sleep dart doesn't happen, Spark probably go further. And the other thing about Spark is we have to remember that the best series of Overwatch we've seen this season was Spark versus Glads.
Yep.
I think, in my opinion, I think that's the best Overwatch we saw throughout the season so far. And
definitely up there.
Glads is very good, and Spark showed in that series that we can hang with the best team in NA when not a lot of the other APAC teams could even touch any of the other NA teams. Spark, I think we're like the closest to like getting to that level, but again, the volatility is so high that I can't realistically put them anywhere in like a box. It's top or bottom.
I gotta top the range off. I think it's like 9-12 and then it's up to 5-6. I think it's reasonable for me.
I mean, I agree with the low end. I can see it happening, and they have like a lot of weird pieces as well. Like, if for whatever reason, because I know in your interview with Rush, you know, you asked him about Doha possibly playing Kiriko, and maybe the DPS players might, you know, we may see some DPS players instead of some flex supports, you know, possibly.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, bro, Architect exists.
Yeah.
This boy exists on this team still. Like he hasn't been used outside of like one like a visa delay, I think it was at the beginning of the season. But like he's still on this roster. He's still getting paid. So I'm like, oh, is 5-6 like that crazy?
Bro.
No.
That would be crazy.
But I don't see how this team like gets their shit together. I think like
I mean, if in all seriousness, I'm gonna keep 1-12 because I think it's funny. But like, and it just totally encapsulate the Spark for me as like an organization, and when I've been following them, it's just like I could like as very little in the 14,665 things that I've seen. There's that one where it's a Winston meta, it's a Sojourn meta, it's a Lucio meta, and it's a Kiriko meta with Architect on Kiriko. And with those 4 players that they have, like it's a winning angle for them. It's a very low chance, but it is a winning angle because they do have the pieces.
I'm gonna give you a hard number, and this is obviously the first one, so it's gonna be a little subject to change. I think for me, as it stands now, I'm gonna probably put them 10th.
Oof.
I think just looking at these teams on paper, knowing what I know about them, I can't like arguably put them like higher than a lot of these teams. There's just no consistency. They may be able to punch above their weight, but that's not something that I feel safe betting on. I feel safe with like a number of other teams like doing more with less, if that makes sense. I feel like there's another pink team that we may be getting to shortly that could probably do a lot with less. Yes. I think London, another great example of a team that's done an entire season of doing a lot with less. Talk about having an identity, talk about being very dangerous in these types of environments. I can't in good faith tell you that I think the Spark is going to perform better than them, personally. So yeah, I think they're 10 for me.
We're doing a hard placement as well.
I think you can if you would like.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I would try to get one out of you, but if you don't,
okay. I'm gonna huff the maximum amount of copium, and this is the last chance for Spark. I'm putting them 6th. But this is the last chance. This is the last chance. I'm huffing so much Billy copium right now.
He's got that fucking shy gear intact.
I think that if it's Winston, if it's Lucio and Kiriko, and we've got Gusha, Shy,
sure. I mean,
Super Rich and Architect, I think it's possible. And I don't even care about that other DPS because it's Alpha E and he can play Reaper and Tracer, if that's what we're going to see. This is complete copium huffing bias from me that they're going to get 6th, and I'm ready to be let down again.
Okay, I'm looking forward to who you put below them because, like, I'm having a hard time here.
It is tough.
Like, they're either 11th or 12th. I think in my mind, like,
yeah.
That's dude. They're gonna.
I'm going 11. I'm going 11.
Oh no.
What's the range for the upper range though?
Upper range, perfect meta. Like Kenobi said, ideal teammates in there. 6, 7, I'd say something like that.
So there's a
somewhere
range,
middle of the pack.
5 or 6 or 7 or 8.
Yeah, 5, 6, fine. Yeah,
okay.
Let's go.
Right. Opium.
All right, moving on. Another team that I think I gave a lot of shit to early on in the preseason. The Toronto Defiant have been forgettable. Not woeful, but mid. Kind of milquetoast. Kind of like toasted bread with like some butter. It tastes of butter, but like not enough to like really get you anywhere. No jelly, no cinnamon sugar.
Yeah.
No Marmite if you're feeling explosive. So, like, for you guys, like, what do we do with Toronto? Obviously, Hisu's been fantastic on the Sojourn. Has, had a bad day at the office to kind of close out the regular season. But maybe there's a Muse angle in here. Can I sell you on some Muse?
Yo, dude, my copium here, like, hopium is the top 3 finish, right, at home.
Really?
That's the well, no. That's the strong case where they got top 3 at their own tournament.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So that's the Eric. Stop doing me dirty. Stop doing me dirty. So lower range 9-12. Now mid range, I think they like the Spark, and I'm a trounce you with this one. I think they're the worst team in the tournament. At 12,
Toronto.
Yeah.
I agree. On paper,
they might be. I have not been, and
especially
this goes
with this meta. I think. Well, okay. Granted, I don't know what the meta is, but
it's so hard to tell.
I don't know what the meta is. However, like when I'm looking at this, like the reason they were so good in Toronto was you had obviously Hisu playing very good on Sojourn. You also though had Hotba, who was a relatively good Junker Queen. If there is no Diva and no Zarya, oh no,
that's true.
It's doomed. It's because I mean Muse. I like Muse a lot. Really big fan of his, like in Talent, Paris, like Eternal Academy, stuff like that. Even on Glad's last year, right? But like, I haven't seen Muse play that much. He was an okay win, but is he better than any of the other Winstons that we have around this level? Not really. I wouldn't say he's not better than Gusha. He's not better than someone. Bellis Rhea maybe. We're towards the bottom here.
Yeah, we're reaching for names at is it? I look at Hisu, I look at Twilight as well. Like if I'm trusting anybody to be a playmaker at flex support, I feel like his name's probably on that list. I think Chorong's been fine. I don't think it's the player that I was sold. Are they the worst? Ooh, they might be.
I think. I mean,
all you have to answer to yourself, Joe, is who else?
Yeah. Who else? That's what I'm doing. Like when I'm looking at this, I'm just like, can I really see this team beating any of these other teams? Like on paper.
I mean, there are names that I want to throw out
really
there, but
hard.
I also don't want to like dive into like conversations about them that like, okay, we have not seen this team literally do anything but play Doomfist. We have not seen this, X team do anything but play like their flex tank that has been like serviceable outside of, the normal flex tanks and like has been okay on Junker Queen. Does Toronto suffer because they've played so much with Hotba? Like much in the same way that like Dallas, like the whole like argument with Dallas is that like, yes, Dallas has looked a different class with Hanbin. What happens when you apply Fearless? It should be better. Sometimes it's not. I think that probably applies here with Toronto. And for the simple fact that I agree with Rush to Yiska's interview. I think a lot of this does stem from DPS, and if you can't give me like a consistent second man, because it sure as hell ain't Alvo, and Finale is hit or miss as it comes.
Yeah.
There's also no Genji anymore, probably. So
yeah. I think they're last. I think I've been convinced. Yeah, I'm gonna put them 12.
Top range.
7-8. I think like Hisu on a good day, Finale on Tracer, Muse. We know he's a good Winston. It's just if this team can actually get their shit together.
Shit. Do I? Yeah, 7-8. I said 5-6. Like 7-8 makes sense.
I don't have them going.
Yeah.
Any last comments on Toronto? Any last stocks? Any bench players you want to call up?
Stay mid.
I can't believe they had to have the -1, man. They were so close to being just. Yeah. They were on the verge of
perfect 0.
This close could have had the perfect 0.
One team that we have referenced prior of being a potential identity haver. Any rare identity W's in the chat? The Florida Mayhem coming in with a +1 record with +1 league points. I think an even record. Looking to be maybe an outside threat. Yiska, is this potentially a team you could see doing particularly well? Maybe.
No, unfortunately not. Like I think they are going to play solid Overwatch. I think they might once again, do well in the tournament, like they always did well in tournaments.
We have to know if they play London and if London is up 2-0. We have to know that. If we know that, then we can like figure out where their placement's gonna be.
But like I feel like at least 6 teams are hard stops for them here. And that unfortunately, like if you look at the bracket, like you're going to hit an early demise based on that. So bottom range 9-12, and then top range 5-6, and that's and then 10.
No,
I think I'm relatively the same with Yiska here. I have 5-6 top range, 9-12 bottom range. I think I'll give them 9 instead of 10. Because I think there are 3 teams that I think they can beat, which are Philly, Toronto, and London, because they always beat London in tournament.
This one I'm not too sure on. They are a team that does have experience playing double flex. Someone has been pretty fantastic this season. My fear is that they play Onimo, and I think fans of the show, know my perception and feeling of him. I'm not particularly fond, and I'll leave my vitriol at the door. Um, outside of that, I think Hydron ended the regular season pretty well on Sojourn. I think Checkmate's a little undervalued. Oh, 9-10. I think they are a better team than Spark, so I'll say 9, but not by much. I don't think it's like too far off. Top range, give me 9-10. I really don't see this team going far. I think they would have to do something like so outlandish to like punch above their weight, and I can't perceive of something that would be that crazy. You know what I mean? Like there's no like, oh, well, they could call up Adam and he could play like Zarya, and Zarya's good, but Zarya just got nerfed. Like Diva, I don't think is going to be like particularly good. I think you need some like if if they showed me a good Rhine comp, and that's something that I've bagged on them really hard about. Like I did not like what I saw from like the team. I don't think it's just someone, but I think the team in general with like Rhine Brawl. I think maybe I could give him a couple extra points, but like I just don't see the creative look, right? Like that the most successful creative look we've seen from them this season is like the double flex, and I just don't think you could run that here. Maybe you can, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. Yeah, no, I think 7/8 is probably where I'll stay. So
okay. Fusion.
Speaking of Fusion Ha.
Ha.
If you're a DBZ fan, maybe you get the reference. If not, maybe that's over your head. The One Piece is real. Anyways,
One Piece.
Philadelphia Fusion, coming in with an even. Is that even league points? Is that right? Oh, map diff. I'm blind. I'm here spitting nonsense. Philly 9th overall with the record and map diff calculated. Is there any? I feel like Philly's got to be like kind of decent, right? Big dive meta. Maybe Fury doesn't have the best Winston, but got some good pieces around him.
I imagine they play Bellatrix.
Okay, sure.
If it's, I like Fury a lot. One of the best players to probably play this game in Overwatch 1 at least, and hasn't been like terrible this season. But Bellatrix, I think, is a player I would say plays if it's like more Winston.
Yeah.
Bellatrix, I think he had a lot of pretty good moments on ball specifically.
I thought his ball was really good.
His ball was very good. His Winston, I don't
so
remember too much about it. I can't speak to it. I remember casting Bellatrix like back in Chinese Contenders, and his Winston, like a huge feeder, but like has grown lengths and bounds compared to when he was back at a Chinese team called First Fabulous Fighter.
Oh, one of those.
Much better player now than he was back then. I think I probably have this team 9th, 12th, low range. Like 7th, 8th, high range. Like I don't see them really. I think that like this is a team that like in the future, I think like give them like one more season, maybe next season. Like you've got MN3, you've got Zest. I think you have a pretty decent tank piece in Bellatrix. This feels like, you can get good momentum going into that next season from the Philadelphia Fusion, because I really don't think that there's like a hard DPS check, kind of like, a WoW term, but like there's hard DPS check for this team, where I don't see them beating like a lot of.
No, I agree with the sentiment there that like I maybe I don't agree on like the DPS check wise, because I feel like that's probably their best lineup.
I meant more of like a DPS check as in like this is the wall.
Oh, just
okay,
in general. Yeah,
not like the specific DPS. It's just like this is the wall kind of like if you just don't have the numbers right to get through this boss, you just won't. And I think that there are teams that are be that boss DPS check.
I like MN3 here. I think like listening to people talk about, I wish I could remember whose interview this was from. Maybe Yiska will remember, but like I feel like maybe it was Ons. I think Ons was like credited as saying like or maybe it was Carpe, I don't remember. It was like another hit scan player that said something like, oh, like I think Ons is like the best like traditional like hit scan player, but like MN3 is like just plays a style that's like super, super aggressive and like just takes all these like crazy ballsy like ego angles and just like gets away with it too. Like he's just good enough to like force that stuff. And I think in this meta with the core that we've established with like Winston, Lucio, Kiriko, I think you're gonna want those players that can do that type of stuff. So like people like Hydron, people like MN3. I feel like those are the types of players that are gonna really thrive here. But I'm really hurting for them not having like a dedicated Winston player if like we're going to lock that in as like a meta read like at a conceptual level, right? Like at its core, you need these three and everything else is kind of like up in the air. Maybe depends on the map. And I feel like that knocks him down for me. I'm gonna say, oh, this is gonna be tough. I'm gonna say 7 upper range of. I'll say 5, 6. I'm gonna say 7th hard, like as a hard number, and then low range. Is there anything above 9-12?
No, that means they win 0. If you win 1, you're 7.
Oh, okay. True. Yeah, leave him at 9-12.
9-12, baby. Okay. Here's the thing. In my mind, I'm like, this team has a silly high peak theoretically, right? Like
Sure.
they have Shanghai on farm. Like they probably could have won a tournament. And then I think about this meta and how most of their good performances was when Zest could carry on Genji.
Yes.
And Genji has been shot with a gun.
A Nerf gun.
So
what do they do to our boy?
They replaced the metal with titanium or with aluminum.
So,
It's like,
and then I'm thinking, okay, there's Kiriko. Bro, like, Aim God
You don't
can't.
like fix a.
Aim God doesn't have it, dude.
yo, what about the Carpe Kiriko, bro?
True.
Yeah,
You
or
ready?
like Zest Kiriko, and then you play Carpe MN3 or something.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't
then
like
you're-
that
then you're
either.
lost.
I don't like. I hate that. I dislike that with a passion.
like, there's no
Please don't
good
say that.
solutions. Like, I almost feel like I'm overrating them here, and I should have maybe, put them lower. But at the other time, like that, the team is also one that can definitely surprise, and then suddenly Aim God is like the best Kiriko or some shit. Not the best, but like a good one.
Right.
Yeah.
So lower range, definitely 9-12, and then upper range. Well, dog, you gotta go 5-6 if I have them in 9th place team. I think there's no way around this. Yeah.
Oh, for me, lock them in at. Yeah. I feel really bad putting them that low. 10, I think, is where I'd.
Okay. You still
don't-
gotta go 11 on some team, right? Like you know.
Oh, actually, yeah. Put them 11 because I have to go through this as
Right.
if I'm putting Spark at let's say.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta make up for your
I've
past
got to reverse
sins. Yes.
I've got to reverse engineer all of this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How to bullshit your friends just to save Spark.
I'm huffing all the Kofi, man. It's their last chance.
There you
They gotta
So-
help me, man.
Talking about this team a little earlier, we're coming into the London Spitfire, a team that on paper can play this meta. I think you have to give them that at this point. I don't agree with this continued narrative that this is like lull the Rhine team. We've seen them be successful on dive comps. Is it at the same like caliber as their like Rhine brawl stuff? Of course not. Of course it isn't. But they have been successful. They've battled with like NA's mid pack with some, hottie Winston. Sparker's no slouch. They still have Shax. Now they have some help at flex DPS. Is there an angle for them to be kind of gimmicky here, or can they actually just play straight up and be successful, Yiska?
I think there's room for some, idiosyncratic like Rhinery,
Mm-hmm.
but Dude, I am going to trounce the shit out of you. You ready for this?
Okay.
Lower range, and this is all bracket. This is all bracket magic. Lower range, 912. And then upper range. 4.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
And then placement. Yeah, it's 8. It's 8. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm a numerical Andy once again, right? Like, yes, like I shifted Spark and Toronto a little bit to not like copy my absolute standings. I'll make up for it. We're getting to the more interesting parts for me. But I feel like, unfortunately, there's some heavy hitters to be named here. And reasonably, London has to beat them in order to... it's like the left side for the audio listeners. So our graphic is like the left side of our column. We have the relative ranking in the power rankings. And then the right side, we have the range. There's not that much that they would beat on average, right? Like, especially because some of those teams I actually think will level up big time, and we'll get to those. So I feel pretty good about this, yeah.
Interesting. Audio listeners, we will go through everybody's power rankings at the end of the broadcast just to make sure that everybody, is on the same page, because obviously you can't see the graphic. I'm
screwed actually. I can't put, so I just realized mathematically, because London and Philly play each other, I realistically can't put either of them at the places that they're at, because they're going to win one game. And that
okay, we're not looking that far into it. Like,
oh, okay. All right. Okay.
just a general feeling.
Then I know where I'm going to put them.
Sure. I think I'm I hate to say this, but I think I'm in a big disagreement with Yiska. I think for upper end, I'm gonna have to probably bump down to 5-6. And I think they're like, what I think they'll finish is probably probably 8 would be my guess. I do think that they're a team that definitely can punch above. Like, this is, if there is a team on this list to like surprise people, I think it is London, for a lot of those same reasons that we saw them succeed in the, not necessarily the kickoff clash, because I think that's when they were like really running Ryan raw, like rush stuff. But I think there are going to be some maps. Like, I think there's like always like one control map that's always good for like really close encounters, really like brawly stuff. I think like you're probably going to see some London magic there. I think they're a really dangerous team to prepare for as well. Kind of to what we were circling, to circle back to what kind of Kenobi was saying at the beginning of the show, that like you're not going to get good brawl practice. You're not going to get good rush practice. And like London is going to be able to kind of prey on, some of these weaker teams.
Yeah.
So I think you have to give them a little bit of juice here. And I think I could see them maybe even punching. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I could see them getting 5-6, like in a lot of different scenarios. So, I think they're dangerous. I think that if they can, they'll probably not want to just mirror people. But I think they can still like hold their own with like the mid-table. So I think they get a couple wins. They make, a decent run. I think they put a capstone on a beautiful season. Something that I don't think anybody expected. But yeah, I can't do too much else with them just on paper. So Kenobes, where you got them?
I have pretty much the same as Yiska. I have placement range top 4. I think it's definitely possible for them, unless they're playing Florida to get into top 4. Then it's a bit difficult, but it's 4, 9, 12. And to kind of like for the Spark meme, I have to put London at 10th. Don't feel great about that, but Spark has to, blood for the blood god, it has to happen. I think that the thing about this team is that when we talk about the brawl specific, you're right, there's not going to be that many other teams that have that type of thing in their locker. If they're the thing is like, if they can play this composition and there's not really like any type of, if there's not really a counter to it and London is just rolling over teams, top 4 doesn't seem like too far off for me. But if they're opting into mirror, then it's like I'm starting to struggle a little bit more with how this team plays, because I think like, what happens with their support line, right? Do we see any of Khan? Landon, I think, is like a very, very good Baptiste. And then I think there's like a little bit of a drop off between and I like Landon a lot, but there's like a little bit of a drop off between how good his Baptiste is and then like potentially some of the other flex he have. So for me, when I look at London, I think that it's a team that I'm very excited to watch, because I do hope that we see some like other stuff that's not just the mirror from them. I bring out the Reinhardt. It is definitely something I think that they are. I guess I could say the best at this season. Like, not really many other teams have done it as well as they have.
Yeah.
And so I think that this team has a pretty wide range of where they can finish. And for the Spark meme, they just unfortunately have to go 10th in my ranking.
Fair. Any last comments for London, Yiska?
No, I'm bracing
All
for
right.
Atlanta.
Yeah, you're embracing for a DM. That's what you're embracing for. But we are getting into Atlanta next. I don't know where this team's going to sit for me, but
I don't either. It's a weird one.
Decent team, I think. Again, very punchy. It sounds like Yiska's coming in talking about punching.
What is he?
He hit the bell already. He's ready.
Huffing and puffing. He's about to blow. He looks like
he's coming out the corner sweating.
Yiska's doing a Kubrick stare right now.
Yeah,
He's just
like... Talk to me, Yiska. What are we going?
Dude, I want to say some shit. I just want to say some shit.
Oh no, he's getting heretical with it.
I just want to say some outrageous fucking shit.
Look, I did
Why?
it. Look at my
Why?
Spark ranking.
Why do you want to say outrageous stuff?
Lower range, 7-8.
Yeah.
How outrageous of you?
Okay.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Higher range.
Just hold on.
2.
Oh.
2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
And now for my final play, I will say 4.
Oh my god.
You're telling me the team that can't play Winston?
Yeah, Gator's not playing, is he?
I mean, okay, that's not fair to Hawk that they can't play Winston. But the known non-Winston player is going to lead his team of like very good DPS players to like a top finish, like
and support players
nearing the podium.
Don't forget about their supports. You got Vigilante and OG, like that's
okay. I could see that. I think
you're getting OG. If we are going off of the idea that Lucio's going to be meta, we get OG's Lucio, and then you get UV or Vigilante's Kiriko, which I'm fine with either. Whoever plays the Kiriko, if it's Vigilante or UV, I think you can do wonderful things with it no matter what. So for me personally, I think lowest is 7-8 for Atlanta, and highest I would say is 3. I don't have them getting to grand. It's a step too far. And placement for me, I think 7.
It's reasonable. I had to make up for the temperature loss. I like in the room, but based on your Spark take. So I had to say some shit. I had to keep up.
Oh, Atlanta. I like Vig. I think that's a great point. I'm gonna say low end. I don't think they get banged out. I think they could probably go low end 5-6.
Oh
no, 7-8.
Yeah,
probably be like low end. I think they can take a lot of teams close. I do think they're gonna struggle. Like, if Winston is going to be hard meta, I think teams that like don't feel comfortable with it are probably going to be like really hesitant on engages. So like you're just not going to be able to play like as proactive, as much proactive Overwatch as you want to be, if that makes sense. Like you want to be like really upping the tempo. You want to play high tempo with these kinds of competitions. Like overall, that's usually how like good Overwatch, at least in my mind, is like viewed. Is if you're keeping the tempo high, then you're probably winning more often than not. I think the only team on memory that I can think of that like has been successful in the complete opposite direction is like season 1 New York. And that was like very specific. Well, that and maybe Goats, but Low end, or I guess high end. Give me 5th. I don't know if that's a thing. 5th, 6th. If not, and then
You still need 11, Joe. You still need 11.
I do need 11. Oh,
you're running out of room.
All right, Eric, I'm gonna need you to quickly do surgery for me. Give me Spark 11.
Oh,
Spark 11, Philly 10. Yeah, move that. Yeah, that works. And then give it ATL 7. Yeah. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, that's fine. I like that.
Okay, just so the audio listeners. Joe currently has Toronto in 12th, then Spark, then Florida, then London. First, Toronto, Spark, Philly, Mayhem, London, and then Atlanta.
Yes. I can't in good faith tell you that the team that like I think is going to like have a hard time engaging in a meta that like for my money seems very explosive is going to perform super, super well. And the next team that we talk about probably is not too far behind them. Any last comments for the Atlanta Reign before we move on?
No, I think like they basically have 4 very, very competitive positions.
Sure.
Yes,
they do. Yes, they do.
And if there's any way, like, Diva will be hard. Maybe there's something else. Yes, I agree. Like, whatever the main tank... Problem is, the Hawk Zero Pool has just been target nerfed, dude. Like...
Yeah,
it's like even though there were no Doom changes in that patch, like
he sucks though. He's so bad.
The tech is also all over the place, so that's not an option. He's also like sort of sad about it on Twitter, so he's sad posting. There's not that much like what it could be. So like, what the fuck do you do? Do you bring out Gator? Like,
oh, you can't. You literally haven't played him all season.
Yeah, I think it has to be Hawk. And Hawk's like Winston didn't look like
it's not bad, but it's like I can't.
But it's not like there are. I mean, even below in seeding, there are Winstons that I am taking 100% over Hawk, and it's
yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I think it will be rough. I agree, but the rest could be excellent.
I agree there. Agreed there. Kenobi, any final thoughts for Atlanta?
No, sir.
Alrighty. Team that for me is right behind them, so you can just drill me in for 6 for Houston here, Eric. The Houston Outlaws talk about being hard targeted. I don't know what Dante does. I really don't know what this team does to engage. Obviously, they have one of those contenders players that they signed and haven't used since. Yeah, that one.
He is a main tank.
Is a main tank. Has he scrimmed since he was signed? I don't know. That's a great question, Kenobi. Thank you for asking.
See, I feel like he played a little too much for what they've shown. Like that's not a fault to Doge. And keep in mind,
of course not.
I think Doge was playing online the entire time and now probably plays offline.
I mean, sure, but
I actually was in a game with him, and I think he said that he scrimmed.
Wait, why were you in a game? Okay, he's not playing.
He's pounding.
He's not playing.
No. It was like it was on like a stream, and then like.
Okay.
Oh right, I thought like he was in your elo.
He's in GM.
No.
Right.
He's a fucking fragger.
I pocketed the shit out of him, and we carried. So just like
based.
I mean, you know what to do. So I mean, you know where your bread's buttered.
Based.
Let's go. Tell me. What's Houston up to?
I mean, did you do
the stock exchange open?
Dude, I have this weird feeling about them.
Oh, stop!
Well, I have to complete my arc.
Yes,
but,
continue.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll speed run this. 7, 4, 7, 8, and I won't elaborate any further.
I have 8 because they need to go. This is the only place that's left before we get to the actual teams.
Why am I Hans Niemann, by the way?
8. And then I have I think
Shame on you,
3.
Aaron.
I think 3 for this one. And then 7, 8 lowest.
3.
Yeah.
That's.
I mean,
that's a
I
call.
think that the thing about it is like I think that this is very much an Atlanta situation where it's like the main tank is iffy, but the rest of the pieces are unreal good. Like
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah,
I
I
think the
don't hate
creative
that take.
Lastro very good. If they do play double flex, that's very good. I am a personal believer in Lep. Obviously biased from like casting him in
Sure.
contenders and collegiate, but I think he's very good. And he's performed like pretty well. I remember the first time that he played, or the second game, I think, where he was like carrying on I think against Glads when they, if I remember correctly. It was, I think it was that game during the Junker Queen meta, where he like booped Reiner off into like the pit in Nepal. But I think this is very much like an Atlanta thing where it's like, yes, the tank situation is a bit iffy. Not the biggest fan of it, but everywhere else, you have very, very good players. You know, Merit is still going to be able to play Sojourn. Pelican, that's the one I'm like a little bit iffy on because the Pelican Tracer is like not as good as like the Genji.
Yeah.
Or, but like he can just play Reaper also, which everyone can do, so fuck it.
Fair. I think high end for Houston. I think okay, so I'll start with low end. I think without looking at their bracket. Can they even be 9-12? Because do they have a bye? I think they're just directly seated, right?
Houston
They
does
have
not
a
have
bye,
bye.
but
They
they could drop
they-
9-12.
play
Okay.
Toronto.
Give me 7-8 for low end. High end. Oh, this pains me, bro. You can't play Doomfist, and I can't give like a podium finish to a team that like is just not gonna play well, and I don't think they can play Doge. Swap me Houston and Atlanta. Put Houston 7, Atlanta 6.
Okay, cosmetic surgery, Andy.
I like Atlanta's pieces more than Houston's. I think Vigilante's better. I think he's going to be a little bit more explosive. I like
Oh yeah, Eric.
I like
actually
Kai
swap-
way better.
Eric actually swapped me Houston and Atlanta 8-7. That's a good point.
I like those pieces a lot more. I think they've been way more consistent overall. I agree with Kenobi. Like Pelican's Tracer has been like not a strong suit. I could see them probably even maybe playing Echo. I think this like there's an Echo angle in here for them because like they just don't want to
Oh
play
wait,
Tracer.
no, I'm an idiot. Wait, I had Houston lower. Okay, go back. I lost my mind there. I have to continuously realize where I've put Spark throughout the entirety of this. And reverse engineer this to work in my mind.
Based.
All right. Any final comments for the Houston Outlaws
No.
before we get into like some like
No.
heavy hitters?
Now we're getting to the good.
Now we're
shit.
getting to the good
Yeah,
teams,
it's cool.
or at
That's
least
good.
what we should consider good teams. Coming in next, Shanghai Dragons, a team that should be defending their title, should be on that path line to glory once again. But yet here they are with a good record, but not one that looks very, immortal, right? They've definitely taken some lumps against teams that you probably really shouldn't be losing to. Definitely looking very out of sorts, as it were. Yiska, what do we do with Shanghai? What's the deal here?
Yeah, so here's one fat thing for Shanghai. They're not seeded into the next round, right? So you have to consider that, right? They have to get past the Spark, and that means their probabilities are very different, right? Than one of the top 4 teams. So this is here's the thing, like I have to convince myself, like for some reason I have this weird idea that they've been in like really not that good, and like they had an off season, but they won the last tournament, man. Like You know, they're not like exactly crapping out or anything. So I think. Wait, what's the? I think my 6 is still open, right?
Yeah.
My 6 is open. Then we go.
I gotta cut in with the last tournament thing where it's like, yeah, they won the last tournament, but it was Junker Queen, and I'm not gonna like write that off.
Also,
it's a little different. Right?
Genji got taken out of the knees.
Yeah.
So you're forced to play.
What are we doing with our DPS here?
Sure.
I mean, obviously you play Lip, but
yeah,
of course,
and Lip has been very good. We're
of course, yeah, consummate professional.
But like, I mean, it's just like I don't know about that DPS line. Who are you can't play? Like you just can't play the Genji, and I think that was a pretty important piece about this. So it's gonna be Fleta and Lip, and Fleta, not the same player that he was. Granted, you know, class is permanent. Obviously, you can have those moments. But for me, it's just like that DPS line leaves a lot to be desired. And while I think that you can put Fate in, have a lot of faith in him on any type of main tank, you've got Lee J gone on Lucio. You've got Izayaki or Bebe potentially on Kiriko. Like, it's not that bad around it. The thing is, it's just that DPS line does not lend me a ton of confidence, which is weird to say about a DPS line that's named Lip and Fleta.
Yes, yeah. No, I think I have to go 6th, and then distribution 7-8 to 4 once again. I don't think they can hit higher. I think it will be very hard for them.
I mean, I feel like that's already given them some slack. Kenobi, where do you kind of have them set?
I have 7-8 lowest.
Am I going to be the Debbie Downer?
They're gonna place 5th, I think, in my world.
Right above Spark.
And then placement range, I think like they can get 4th. Yeah, I think that have that. It's just like when I look at those top 4 teams above them, like
yeah.
I just can't realistically, like, they can maybe squeak out a win against like one of them, and I'm being very generous about it. It's gonna be very difficult, and it is Shanghai, it is Coach Moon. This team has a ton of pedigree and a ton of class. It's just like I cannot realistically see them going anywhere higher than just beating one of those top.
Low end 9-12.
Oh,
I think there is a very real world where Shanghai gets fucking banged out real quick, real fast. I think we have seen a trend that nobody's talking about, that this team sucks, absolutely sucks when it comes to adapting to metas on the fly. And we're talking about...
It's not wrong. You're not wrong.
1, 2, 3, maybe 4 days of practice. This team is not going to have their sea legs under them, Lieutenant Dan. Mark my words, okay?
Yo, you're not wrong. Yeah.
That said, I don't expect them to get banged out, but I think this is going to be the upset team. I think this is the team that, like, somebody's going to score a crazy win on, and we're all going to throw our hands in the air and go, what do we do? The sky is falling. Upper end.
It's about to be Spark, baby. Let's go.
Upper end, give me like 5, 6. I really can't put them too much higher. And hard number wise, I have not been a big Fleta fan, and I think Tracer is going to be an impact role in this meta, next to like Kiriko, and then your main tank. And I think Fate's great. I think he's kind of slept on when it comes to like the Mount Rushmore of tank players. All right, we're gonna have to do some splicing, I think.
Here we go again.
Just put them 5th.
No, I can't. Give me Atlanta 5th.
Oh,
and then give me Shanghai 6th.
Okay,
yeah,
I don't hate
something like that. I think that's a little bit closer.
Slicing and dicing.
I just don't feel it with Shanghai. I think we're walking into a brick wall with this team, like, and not in a good way. Like, Fleta is just not going to be there on these dives. I think he's shown that in the past. I don't think you play Void. Yeah, I don't like what I'm projecting for this team. So, anybody else? Any Shanghai Hopers, believers, copiums?
No.
No?
No.
Alrighty, moving on. The Seoul Dynasty. Now, this is a team that could do some things. This is a team that could be schmoving and groving. Yiska, talk to me about the GOAT.
All right.
Or the Emperor of the Sea, as I've deemed him.
Dude. I mean, you got to believe that something is in the water.
I feel like there's magic.
Dude.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, let's talk some real facts this season. Oh my god, I'm about to say this. Stalker is a better DPS player than Prophet.
I mean, Prophet did play Brig for a stage.
Is he a better DPS player?
I like the only thing where
I mean,
like
if
he
it's Tracer
clearly
meta,
he was clearly beating like Stalker. Yes, if it's Tracer meta, you probably gotta just like do that. But like Prophet slapped on Genji.
Yeah.
I give him that, but that's not going to happen here, right? So actually, what I mean, it's not like not Stalker is generally the better DPS player.
Okay.
In this situation, he's the better DPS player choice for the metas.
Agreed.
I think
Agreed.
that are going to happen.
do you think really? Like,
Possibly.
So
okay, so walk me through. I need to be walked through this because Prophet played Tracer earlier, like in kickoff clash, and so is it Prophet or Fitz? I guess who takes the back?
you ready?
Yeah.
I think Prophet is playing, but it ain't DPS, my friend.
Kiriko. Oh,
I think there's a real world. Like, if you do the brick shit, and yes, there's probably also something to be said about, you know, the travel that Creative had to do in order to. Iris had to do. He is also pretty sick, but there's a world where it's like, okay, you didn't play Iris. Presumably first because of travel, and then but you didn't switch him in eventually, right? Like it can't be that hard for a Korean citizen to get into Korea. Like that wasn't that big of a delay, right? So
Sure.
why profit on support? My friends, this is once again possible here. Is it possible? A real possibility. I will
don't
also say
disagree.
Iris is also whew, that was a great
Very
trade.
talented.
That's the one thing that I like that stops me from it because Iris is that guy on Flex. Aim-wise,
Is
like,
he
I
that
would-
guy
I
on
would say-
Kiriko though?
I mean, Kiriko. Yeah, I guess aiming with Kiriko is a little bit different than like a lot of the.
It's
Other
not just that.
heroes.
Also, think about what
But Iris's BAP is
Kiro-
like sick, and like if we're kind of comparing and contrasting, BAP is the closest that we have to like Kiriko at the current moment. Where it's,
You-
like,
you
a
think
lot of the
so?
cooldowns.
I
Well,
feel
yeah, 'cause
like
I mean, like your E is like your E is like the
Mm.
it's not exactly the same, right? But I think it's like the most adjacent hero at the current moment, where it's like aim is very important. You have a immortality ability. You kind of need to do DPS to get the value out of the hero. Ultimates are not really the same, but they do kind of add DPS, and I think that that's kind of what I'm looking at is like when I look at Kiriko versus BAP is just that the fact that there are so similarities between the two, and Iris is like I think good enough to play Kiriko. If there was someone who I would like really want to play Kiriko, I think it'd be Iris. Granted, I think you do have a point that Prophet could play it, especially with the fact that we saw him on Brig, and if it is a Tracer meta, Stalker's very good at Tracer.
I also
Granted, though, it's Prophet. Like I can't realistically in a Tracer meta say, especially with what happened in Kickoff Clash, where Prophet literally like brought that Shanghai series back from defeat with his Tracer play.
no. Like Prophet Tracer is still fucking ridiculous. Here's why I think BAP is not a good comparison. I understand like the immortality field. I think the closest is Genji. And it's not just because like it's like thematically the same and the wall climb and whatnot. One of the key abilities that differentiates like Genji's from another is like the chord vision during Blades, right? The ability to just see the entire playfield, plot out where you want to go, and have everything in check. Just have an intuitive feel. Profit is among the best in the world at that meta skill, right?
I wasn't thinking about DPS at all, but I do think you're right. I was mostly
thinking in the support pool,
like in the support role, like BAP is
Yes.
what we have as closest, but like I do kind of like you're starting to convince me a little bit that like there is that kind of court vision that you mentioned that is like very important, especially for Kiriko, where you have that ability to like go in with the rest of your team and like know exactly where you need.
Like a good Kiriko player, in my mind, needs to be very good at reading game states, needs to have expert court vision, and then also needs to have a pretty solid understanding of projectile, right? For various reasons, like even the Suzu is not, like, I don't think you always want to just teleport smash down, right? Like sometimes you gotta lob it, right? And then of course like the close up stuff that you're also doing with Genji, I think this is where she shines in terms of the headshot stuff. So, I think that's probably, I could see, as a general statement, I could see a lot of flex DPS picking that up if the meta allows the other DPS choices to fill in, right? So I think that it's a real possibility here. Right, so in my mind, what does that mean? So we have Stalker. What could it be? It could be
Tracer.
Tracer,
Sojourn.
It could be Reaper, Sojourn. Reaper.
I feel like you have both dodged a name that I feel like is just jamming Soul like on a podium for me.
Vindame.
No,
Smurf. Yeah.
Really?
I think having Smurf jams them into a metal finish. That's it.
You got to give respect to that Winston.
Oh! I thought you were meaning that he was like we were missing it as like he was going to be a detriment. Oh,
no. This is somebody who I think is just like you get a medal. I don't care what medal you get, but you're getting one.
Especially if it's Winston. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think is he clearly the second best Winston in the league at this point?
At this tournament, I think he will be.
I think he's because I think I know who first is.
Yeah. I mean,
I know who. Yeah,
we'll talk about it, but
we will talk. Yeah. We haven't mentioned it yet.
But what do you mean inside this tournament? Who's outside the tournament that could rival that? Am I forgetting someone?
not that I can think of.
No.
I mean, is it Punk?
So there's this guy named Tree.
Yeah. Tree could probably be one of the best Winstons, honestly. He's good enough.
Dude, okay, this is where it's also where we get into the wild territory, where the range for Soul, you gotta say one, right? It could be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Agree.
And then the lower range, well, unfortunately, you also can say 7-8. No,
Really?
No.
Shot.
But
no,
you could say 7-8. That would mean they would lose both matches, right? Is that true?
No.
Oh, would that already qualify them as 5-6? I'm stupid. Wait.
I mean, I haven't been doing it really off the bracket.
Yeah, I'm doing general feel. So if you want to get like
7-8,
they can go 0-2 and finish 9-12.
Okay.
Because that even though they get a bye, they
still go
to
the losers bracket.
Don't they go to losers round 2?
Yeah, they go to
losers bracket round 1. You can see it's the bracket would show.
That changes a lot, actually. Yeah, no, then 7-8 is entirely reasonable.
I don't see that.
I don't.
I really can't see that.
I mean, so I have them at 1 as like the highest. I think they definitely can win the tournament.
Sure.
I'm gonna go like 4th is the placement range. They will finish top 4. I think it's very unlikely that they buster out hard enough to go like anywhere lower than that. Yeah. Oh no, I meant like placement range. The lowest is.
Yeah, Kenobi's lower range is 4.
Lower ranges. And then actual placement. I don't know. This is
you want me to go?
Yeah, go.
Here, I feel like I feel like I have a pretty strong opinion on Soul. I think this is the only other team at the tournament. Yeah, I think this is the only other team at the tournament that I would trust to win. outside of like the team who I think is actually going to win. I think there are two
Yeah.
teams at this tournament that I think are like out in
Really?
front, and I think it's Seoul
No,
and
I
somebody else. We'll
disagree.
get to them.
Yeah.
Um,
I think there's one. I would have one other team.
yeah. So I'm gonna say second is my hard number. I think this is your silver medal team. I think Seoul Dynasty. goes second.
Okay, that's wild to me. They're 5 to me.
5.
Fuck. Oh no. Okay.
You think the Atlanta Reign is going to place over the Seoul Dynasty?
On average, yeah.
You're crazy. That's a take and a half, my guy. I feel like that is nuts. So
Dude, I'm not a Fitz
Smurf,
believer.
Profit, Stock. I agree. I think Fitz is a bit of a liability, but like, what's more of a liability? Like the average fucking Sojourn or like the average Winston? And that's like giving something.
I'm gonna go bonkers here. I'm gonna put them at third because I think they will podium.
Sure. I think
Yeah.
this is a podium team.
I think they are a podium team.
Yeah. I mean, I could totally see them winning, but it's just like in my mind, I'm basically saying power rankings. Seoul has not looked great in
That's true.
international
That's true.
competition.
Yeah.
Facts.
And like I gotta value that in there. I'm not sure. Like travel also has to be valued in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's
Alrighty.
By the way, this is by us like having the APEC teams or the best APEC team relatively low, even though you guys have them relatively high. We have to apologize to Avril in advance.
I think Soul's got some power to him. But moving on to a strong NA representative, the Los Angeles Gladiators. I have a funny feeling that maybe there's a certain German fellow that likes him some purple. Is that fair to say, Yiska? Do you feel like you've juiced the Glads in your power rankings coming in the playoffs?
I haven't. I think I'm reasonable. Here's my reasonable take. After having interviewed Face and totally not being like info juice biased in terms of like having direct impact into or insight into the brain and asking the questions I'd like to ask in an interview that could soothe my doubts, but reasonably, right? Okay, Reiner absolutely can play Winston, even if it goes into like some Ryan shit. Absolutely can. I think they found out for themselves if something off tanky was going to be there. Space could absolutely cover that.
Yeah,
their backline is maybe the best in the league. Is the best in the league. Fuck it.
Sure.
And then they have Happy Kevster. Bro, that's a team. Range 1, 1-4, 2.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I have I'm gonna go a bit more on this. They're gonna finish top 3. IMO, they'll podium. Actually, well, I don't know if I can even do that with how I set this up. Whatever, fuck it. I'll change it a little bit. But Yiska kind of just said everything I was gonna say. Like, I mean, honestly, with this team, like Reiner being on Winston, fantastic. The dude's very, very good at main tanks. I think you have Kevster and Happy. Can you really go wrong with any combination of heroes that you're playing? Don't think it's possible. Yiska's right. The best backline that we have. I mean, even if they don't play skewed, like it's just Funny Astro and Shu, and it's a Lucio meta. Like Funny Astro has like an argument that he's the best Lucio in the world.
Sure, yeah.
You have that. Kevster has an argument that he's the best DPS in the world next to Proper. Like everywhere you look on this team, there are top 3 players in their position. And I don't think that it's possible for them to really finish any lower than a podium spot. I don't think they win because there is another team that I think is going to win over them. And I think that this is
I want to do plastic surgery. Okay.
Okay, quickly, Yiska.
Quickly.
Alter your power rankings.
Wait. I think because the implication here is fuck. No, I'm leaving it.
Like-
I'm leaving it.
Like, yeah,
He's leaving.
I believe in the beauty of natural picks.
There's just no way that this team can like get lower than third to me. It just
Yeah,
doesn't like.
can't.
I don't see a place where it happens.
No, I agree. That's why I think low end, give me 4. High end, give me 1 high end. No, I can't. Give me 2 high end. And then I think
they're gonna. You don't think? Wait, whoa. You don't think they can win the tourney?
let me give me 3rd overall. So I think they can come close. I do have to be I'm mildly concerned with Happy on anything that isn't named Sojourn, right? God forbid we enter a meta where like Reaper's out there, or
It's
you know,
Reaper.
It's Reaper, but it diminishes his like impact. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
And like Reiner has been good, but like, can I value him in like again, like in a very specific manner? I'm looking at like the, you know, like you mentioned the mystery of the universe. I'm Nosdormu, looking into the multiple timelines of the Overwatch League playoffs. Like, I think there are certain DPS lineups that the Glads just are not gonna excel at. I don't know if we're gonna walk into one of those, but I can say with pretty much certainty that I have zero trouble with Seoul. I think they're not gonna peak as high as a DPS lineup as maybe the Glads, but I also don't know if that's gonna be like super important. I don't know that like Sojourn just getting like random rails is gonna be super relevant. Well, I think it's gonna be relevant. I just don't know if it's gonna be as relevant as like the last couple metas. Because I feel like we're going to be playing at a very, very fast tempo. Like the tempo of this meta is going to be really, really quick. So the amount of time your Sojourn has time to just like get a couple like random rails off and like get a pick, I feel like is going to be diminished.
Winston, so there's shield and
Exactly. So like I don't know that Sojourn is going to be that impact player. I really think it's going to be Kevster like really kind of like running this home. And I can't like in good faith tell you that like a possible like Prophet Smurf dive duo reminiscing of like GC Busan era Prophet, like I can't say that. So like I think it's gonna be, I think it's tough for me to like, we're splitting hairs here with Seoul and Glads. But no, I don't think Glads is the team that can kind of take this home. I think there are, looking at the core of these teams, looking at like Tracer being another like big player, I just don't see it. I think they're a podium team, like you're saying, but I just don't see them coming away with a title.
All righty.
Time to get spicy. Time to get real
Here
spicy.
we go.
I don't like the shock.
We're
going to San Francisco. We're going to the Bay Area. We're going to the not the home team, but you know, neighbors of the home team. Yeah, I don't like the shock here. I really don't. I don't like them. I'll get mine out of the way, and then you all can roast me. Give me a hard number 4.
Sure. That was that followed.
Give me a 5-6 bottom range.
Oh, fuck! Oh my god!
Up end of 3.
Ooh.
I don't like this team. I do not like it.
Ooh,
I think this is the proper show all over again.
Fuck.
I don't trust Kaluj. I think he's been very passive on Winston. I think if you go back and look at the tape, Kaluj has been actually pretty surprising at how good he is at Winston. Coming from like talking to some of the contenders coaches, obviously talking to Kenobi and some of the NA people as well, or collegiate people. Not somebody who you expected to be like serviceable on Winston, but I thought he was like okay. Not somebody who I think is going to be aggressive enough to like thrive in this meta. Not somebody who I think is going to be like comfortable enough to be able to like play up to the speed that I think you really need to be able to play at. I think this is proper kind of dragging his team, kicking and screaming. I still have yet to see anybody on this team play a competent like Sojourn. I don't want to see Kilo. I don't want to see, other than proper. And like, you have Striker, but like again, it's one of those.
Sam's Sojourn when he played it. Granted, it was a very, very small sample size, but I think it's the
Yeah.
best that he's looked this season when he was on Sojourn.
I don't know. I don't even know if Sam starts. I think there have to be like some tailored stuff. I do not like this team. I think they're kind of ham-fisting in a lot of different DPS players. I've never been a big gear shifter, so like rotating people in and out is never like a consistent thing. I don't think that's good. I think there's a possible world where like San Francisco like ends their run really early, and it's a little disappointing. But I'll give them 4.
So
Yiska, what are you thinking?
Oh, Yiska.
No, Kenobi, go.
Okay.
Does Yiska have the spice at the end?
No, he's still thinking. He's thinking.
Okay. So I have placement range top 3. I think it's very unlikely with how good the rest of the core is. I do agree with Joe that I am worried about the tank line. I am a staunch Kaluge defender. I think he's performed very well. I think on a lot of other teams, if Proper like didn't exist,
Sure.
I think Kaluge is one of like is a absolute candidate for Rookie of the Year in my book. I think he's been great coming in as late as he did, fitting into this team, playing the way that he's been playing. I think he's been very good. And the problem is that we're going into a meta where it's not flex tanks or off tanks. It's Winston and it's the main tanks. And I mean, if they put in Mikey, then I'm like even more worried for this, right? Where it's like Kaluge, like Winston wasn't like, it's serviceable. But like, and then I look at the other 3 teams that are above this, that I have above them: Smurf, Fearless, what's the
Gusha.
Who's the last?
Reiner, Gusha.
Oh, Reiner. Yeah, Reiner. Gusha also. Yeah. Reiner. There's I don't see Kaluge being able to, stick up to Reiner, stick up to Fearless, like Smurf. I just can't see it happening. So I have them finishing 4th. But they can win the tournament. I think that you can have these moments where if it is going to be the Proper show, there is no other player that I would want to be there to carry my team, I think, at this point, right? I think he is the one who could potentially like drag this team, because again, the real problem that this team has is like the pieces are like, I think even the support line's like okay, like fine for this. I think Violet's shown that he's a pretty good Lucio, being able to transition over. It's going to be a Lucio minute. Finn, I definitely have faith in them being able to play Kiriko. And then Joe made the point of like the other DPS, but if it's Sojourn Tracer, or I'm totally fine with that. You get Proper on Sojourn and then you put Striker on Tracer and you look probably pretty good. I mean, Striker still got that in him, I think, on the Tracer. So they have the capability to win the tournament, I think. But I am so worried about their tank line that I can't realistically, put them.
So what's their lower range?
Third. I think they're going to podium.
But they're 4th in overall ranking?
Oh, 4th. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
My bad. Bottom range is.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay, dude. I think there's one tank out that we've sort of glossed over that could make a lot of things whole for a lot of teams. And that's Sigma, right? Like, if there's any possibility that Sigma sees play.
There can't, I mean, how do you play Sigma into the meta that we're going to have?
I can't see the archetypical, like, poke tank.
Yiska brings up a good point, though, because it is Kaluge. And if there's, like, Kaluge is very good at Sigma. Like,
right, but if we're just saying, like, archetypically, right? If we're looking at, like,
I don't think it would work.
The craziest dive meta we've possibly ever seen, where it's a 6-man dive every time, right? Maybe like, well, I guess it can't be a 6-man anymore, but like a full team just run it in. I don't think Sigma can see play. I don't think that's like a style that you could even run.
The thing
I don't
is,
think it's even like playable.
Like, if we actually drop into a meta where legitimately like very potent flanks, I'm not even sure what archetype you would put that in. Let's say like you have something sitting on the flank, Kiriko comes in, goes for a quick kill. Like, one of the better tanks probably to avoid that and like have some control over your backline is probably Sigma, right? So
I would say
maybe Diva, of course, but like
she's
been
the other
nerfed.
one, because the problem with Sigma is that if it's against Winston, Winston just throws down bubble, and Sigma is just not a hero anymore.
Yeah. That's not wrong. Yeah, I mean,
and it's like even if it's like a Rhine, it's like what
I do think you have good defensives because in this meta, there's not a lot of beam because it's just Winston beam, and you can use the quality of life change. I think they made to the grasp that I forget what it's called. But you get that like relatively quickly, and I think it actually matches up with cooldowns of dives based on the cooldown that I'm thinking of right now. So you have some survivability there, and you won't. There's no way you die to just Winston because you just have that up, and you should be totally fine unless they're coming from all angles. Kind of fucked, but that feels to me like a world where everything has to go perfectly for the.
Yeah,
it's very.
Okay, so bottom range 5-6, upper range they can win. And then third. Uh-oh. We all get the same number one.
Yeah, I mean, is it that crazy to think that the Dallas Fuel is not like a shoe-in with the core that we've established?
I mean, how crazy is it though that this patch that is presumably happening has nerfed every single best part of Dallas?
Yeah. And there's still
it's Sombra, it's Genji. Like Sombra, remember, Doha at one point was probably the best tracer in the world. Or not tracer, Sombra in the world. Sparkle was also potentially at one point one of the best Genjis in the world. Yeah. Hanbin, MVP candidate, D.Va, and Zarya.
Yeah.
And then we're still here saying that this team is going to finish first because they've got that one. Fearless has still got that dog in him.
He's
this
still
is a Winston
that guy,
meta.
Man.
Oh my, he is that guy. He's got that dog in him. We have to remember that while Fearless has had a really not great season overall because of just how it's worked out.
Yeah, you're behind Hanbin.
This guy reverse swept Seoul in a grand final just off the basis of their Winston alone.
Yeah.
He's him. He's the best Winston I think probably it's going to be at this tournament.
Yes.
And then I look around and I'm still okay, well, Sparkle can play Tracer. You can get Edison onto the Sojourn, who out of nowhere during the kickoff clash just starts playing like one of the best Sojourns in the world. Just out of completely nowhere when plus as a Genji. And also this was a guy who couldn't hit Wraith form on Reaper a couple of months ago.
True.
Now he's just killing everyone on Sojourn. The dude's nuts. And then support line looks great. Fielder on Kiriko? Fuck yeah. Give me Chio's Lucio. I'm down for this team all across the board. And I don't think that there is a single team. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are probably some teams that can beat them, but I think this meta it's wild to me that we are in a meta still where Dallas still feels like the best team after the nerfs that are going to happen, which felt like Dallas specific almost.
It's like if you go through every team, but no, I think every other team has a very obvious weakness. If we have the meta read approximately right. Come on. Because their backline's not an issue, we can agree on that. Yeah. Their tank line's not an issue, I think we can agree on that. And then they have so much DPS baggage that at worst, what are you going to see? Tracer? And that's
that's the only thing that is it weird to say that I think Dallas's one weakness is their DPS? Is that crazy?
But I'm not even.
Yeah, but
I don't think it's weak. But I think if you had to give me a weak line for Dallas, I think it's their DPS.
Yeah, but then
I would agree.
Then you look at that weakness in comparison to a weakness like Winston for the shock for the Outlaws, the Rain and whatnot, and then you
I'm
go
down to watch Sparkle play Tracer. He's
won't be bad.
Yeah, and then you go to other DPS I'm not sure Happy can cover everything. They are down to 2 DPS. I'm not sure if Fitz will be back and be able to perform fully. I'm not sure what Fleta is capable of. Everyone has pretty dangerous holes in there, where the hole that Dallas has, there is something there that you where you could upgrade theoretically. But the upgrade wouldn't be by as many points as other
Yeah.
squads.
Yep.
And also, like, talking to Rush is like, it's basically a step into a different portal. And I'm not sure if it's just a linguistic thing.
Sure.
When I talk to Rush, I have the feeling I'm talking to someone that's basically like building his, I don't know, his Mustang or something, you know? And he's like choosing engine parts. And he's like,
yeah,
you know, like that part of the engine is actually, yeah, it's powerful, but like it's also high quality, but like it's just part of the engine. If the engine is not running right, like then, you know, whatever. Like I don't care if the label is Hanbin. Like things have to work, right?
sure.
When I talk to Rush, I feel like the team is the superstar. Nobody else.
Remember that. Pin that sentence. The team is the superstar. Pin that sentence for me. I'm gonna circle back to it. Yiska, give me your bottom range.
Bottom range 3.
Kenobes, talk to me about Dallas. Give me a bottom range.
I mean, I kind of gone over Dallas and how I believe that they're just good at every single role, and I think Fearless is going to again show that he is a Winston savant and one of the best players to ever like just play that hero. I think that I would be very shocked if they don't at least make grand finals from any point. So I have the lowest range of.
Is that 2?
Yeah, I don't think it's possible for, like, I really can't see them not making sense.
I'm gonna say they have a low range of. I'd like to emphasize this with a big move, but I kind of can't like justify it. So I'll say 3. If Tracer is going to be as impactful as I kind of am starting to think she might be, I think there's a world where like Dallas may feel a little bit of an absence when it comes to like a top tier Tracer player. But what I think, like, just out of everything, every attribute that I think you are walking into this meta with, again, assuming that our patch rate is right, I think number 1, you probably need a Winston player, just from like how few of them there are. I think teams with Winston players are going to do extremely well. Number 2, you probably need a good Tracer player, like a strong Tracer player. Number 3, I think you need to have a good team, like atmosphere. I think you need to have good coordination. I think you need to have proven to me that you can coordinate dives, you can play all these different kinds of, things, because like what Yiska said at the start of the show, the meta isn't necessarily decided yet. Yeah, we may all agree on like a core of heroes, but is that, are we getting different DPS? Is Kiriko locked in? Like it's hard to say. So I if there was any team in here that I could trust, it's probably Dallas, right? That's pretty much it. Every other team just doesn't have the same like consistent factor for me that like Dallas does. Like they just feel so ironclad in that way. And and to circle back to like the pin sentence that I wanted to take from Yiska, I think this is the start of the Rush era. I think the moves that Krusty has made, I think his time has come and gone. I think Rush has at least again proven to me that he has the better eye. He has like the same level of scouting, but I think what he does better is I think he has a much better read on strategy, especially for like the pieces that he drafts. And he's building, like Yiska said, he's building a car that needs to function at all levels, right? Every piece needs to work in tune, work in tandem with each other to make this vehicle move. And I think you've always seen that with his teams, whereas Krusty, it's not necessarily there. I think we're starting to see a decline in terms of like Shock's identity, Shock's like system versus Dallas's system, right? I think it's very clear to me that Dallas's system is team first and you get like the titles later. Shock, on the other hand, is like you do whatever it takes to win. And I think that's just kind of short-sighted in some ways. So I think this is Dallas's tournament to win. I think they have a very, very big path to the title, and I think you can put Rush on their shoulders, and I think that's the ticket to the Dallas homeland.
It's still so crazy to me that like when I saw the like the Yiska article when I was reading those patch notes, wow, this is really bad for Dallas fans.
Yeah.
I thought about it a little bit more, and I was like, because it was literally just like all the Dallas heroes, right? It was Sombra, it was Genji, it was even Zarya, and yet because this team is built so well, and I think Tasmo also deserves credit for the job that he's done, with the team and specifically getting the players that he's gotten after Fuel kind of had to do like not a huge rebuild, but like a mini rebuild, getting these team and like adding those pieces.
Yeah.
To be in a position where we're still saying that Dallas is going to win the tournament. I mean, it's just, it's incredible that we're here and this team is so, like you mentioned, Joe, ironclad that like I think they are definitely deserving of being the favorites of this tournament. And I think they have, I think the odds were like what, 27% of betting odds to like,
they're
like
pretty high.
They're pretty high.
Yeah. Glads are still favorites here.
I think that's
Yeah.
a little dangerous for me. But
the problem is we don't know the meta. We're speaking on it as if like we think that this Winston meta is going to, which does impact a lot about how we view Dallas.
I just I just can't imagine another tank being like even like.
Yeah, I can't either. But like,
can't be Doomfist.
Who knows?
Can't be Diva. Maybe maybe
No,
Shock just like relies on the Diva again. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just can't. I can't foresee another tank. Maybe Ryan on very specific maps. Ball maybe on some specific maps could be okay as like a Doom substitute, like just that disruptive hero.
There's not a lot of good ball players though. That's the problem.
No, maybe you can say that about the Shock though. I don't know. Hard to say. I believe Eric does have an average of our ranks, our ratings.
I bet the Spark thing.
I think there's going to be a pink team, a little juice up there. But let's see our collective rankings.
Right. Should I read it out? What we in our average?
Yes. Go ahead with the average.
So
the average.
On average, we, for the audio listeners, have the last place team, Toronto Defiant. After that, the Philly Fusion. After that, the Hangzhou Spark. Joe and I put in a lot of work to make Kenobi's nefarious deeds undone. Very heroic of us. Then in 9th place is the Florida Mayhem. 8th is the London Spitfire. 7 are the Outlaws, maybe a little low. 6 are the Shanghai Dragons. 5 are the Atlanta Reign. 4 are the San Francisco Shock. 3 are the Seoul Dynasty. 2 are the Los Angeles Gladiators. And our favorites, in everyone placing them in first, is the Dallas Fuel.
So obviously we know Kenobi's juice take is the Spark. Yiska, what's your like
hot take?
What's your hot one?
My hot one was probably
Atlanta 4.
Atlanta 4. It was pretty high. I think also my Soul 5 is pretty hot. Like
a little bit, yeah. I could see that. I would agree. But I also I hear like the fit stuff, and I hear the travel and the we did not see them show up. We expected them to do extremely well in the midseason madness, and they just didn't. I was a different team. Like I don't know what team their monitors were off. They didn't take they didn't poop well in the morning. I don't know. It was irregular to say the least.
I think.
Is it okay? Go ahead. Yeah.
I think like generally speaking, right? If you were to say APAC region was the better Overwatch League region during lockdown when we always had split regions ever since then, I would probably agree with you. Except this season. And the reason for that is pretty obvious. Because the access to Overwatch 2 hurt the engine of why APAC was always so good. Which is underage crack lords in contenders just like fucking dominating in scrims and therefore elevating the level of everyone competing in that region, and therefore like having this ripple effect where everyone gets better, the scrims get better within our teams, like O2 Blast, like basically APAC had a barbell, and it was proper, and now they didn't have that, and they didn't he sang people around. They didn't have access to Overwatch 2 for a long time, so I think it makes sense that we're still feeling that effect to a little bit. Also, real talk, some of those APAC teams this year were experiments and like sized down. Some of those are all-star lineups coming of age, already checking out retirement homes, and thinking about everything else but Overwatch, possibly. I don't want to make the claim here. Joe. I'm not doing the they're not doing anything only for tournament play profits like scholar like school kid.
Oh, okay, yeah, true.
That's not my
that'll
point.
be on my gravestone.
But I think I just feel it's the most true to what I observed, that yes, APAC looked pretty good for a while, then they couldn't bring it at midseason, which is the one touching point. Then even after, that's going to be hot. Dude, I'll give you a little sneak peek. This offseason is going to be hot as shit.
True.
The Shanghai Dragons need to recoup. There are some big hitters going into FA.
Spectra.
Yes,
Spectra.
There are
Spectra.
There are contenders players. Spectra,
Yeah.
like fucking Hisang, those
Top
guys.
Dragon.
But
Oh, you said the cursed word.
they are a couple of Dallas players probably approaching FA unless they sign something that I don't know about. Theoretically, like guys like Sparkle, guys like Hanbin, those guys theoretically should go into FA. So cherish these playoffs, man. Like it won't happen that, or it's very unlikely to happen that something like the Shanghai Dragons, where a roster wins the regular season, wins the tournament, and then almost unchanged goes into the next season. Unlikely this year. Whoever wins it is probably going to have major changes done to them. So definitely cherish that here. And I mean, I think from my point of view, this feels the closest we've ever been. I have high hopes for these playoffs to be highly competitive, to have many close years. I was doing my bracket. I was like, that's a banger. That's a banger.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
too.
That's a banger. Like, there's dark horse potential. I still feel some things in the ether with Houston here. Dude, it's still Pelican. I don't give a fuck. That boy still...
Stop with the Pelican, okay?
It's Pelican. Yeah, I mean, okay, if we're look,
this has been. I think.
I feel
his
something in
worst
the air with
season,
Spark.
though.
You know what? I feel something in the air.
Yeah,
with
okay.
You're crazy to me.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Honestly, was Spark not the best performing international APAC team during mid?
Sure.
Granted,
Yeah,
standing wise, they did get bumped out by Philly, but I would say like compared to the field, I think Spark did perform the best against the international competition.
We call that
Can
drunken
we-
boxing.
Yeah.
I am like huffing so much copium right now. Like so much copium and opium.
Yeah.
But I mean,
It's
again,
true,
like
it's true.
look, I gotta be honest, Shy is my favorite player of all time.
All right, before we get out of here, because we are getting close to our hard stop time, or rather mine, I'm going to hit you both with some lightning rounders off the top of your head.
Right.
Yiska.
Mm-hmm.
Who's Grand Finals MVP?
Fearless.
Yeah,
Kenobi? Would you say Fearless as well?
fearless.
Okay. Hit me with the most disappointing player at playoffs.
Oh, fuck.
Pelican.
Oh, fuck off. Fitz.
You mean disappointing by like they're not living up to their expectations, not that they're playing. Like,
Yeah.
Pelican.
Pelican. Okay. Yeah, I would probably say the same. Like Fearless, Pelican's not a bad shout. I'd go Fleta, I think.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
Fleta. I think
Yeah,
people are
Fleta.
still catching up with Fleta.
I keep forgetting that he has to play.
So that's disappointing. Give me the most surprising player. Maybe overperforming. punching above their weight a little bit.
Oh, okay. I'm summoning my opium for my fucking shit takes. I gotta say, Kilo.
Ew.
Oh.
No. He can't get a kill for his life. Kenobi, surprising. Razzle dazzle me.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I got a second pick.
I don't know. I'm drawing a huge blank on this one.
I'll steal this from you.
Kaluge, fuck it.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Staying with the stannery. I'm gonna go vigilante.
Yeah.
Maybe some Kiriko prowess in there. I feel that in the ether a little bit. Last but not least, we are gonna quickly run over our at least Sunday bracket. I don't know if we're gonna be able to do them all, but get some
Lightning
of
round.
these initial games out of the way. So let's decide Philly Fusion versus London Spitfire, a rematch of the 2018 Grand Final. Yiska, is London getting the dang thing done?
I think I said yes.
I think London has it.
Oh, this is our correction. This is our brackets with our power rankings in mind.
Oh,
so
okay.
let's just take a view. Audio listeners, you're gonna have to tune in. This is the
Okay.
Apologies. You can probably stop the show here at this point, but we're gonna be viewing our bracket delivered to us by our beautiful production team.
Wait, I don't want to be confronted with the evil
Our
psychotic.
with the reality of with the consequences of our actions.
Seoul Atlanta 3-2.
I'm
Start scrolling around.
I'm sewing.
Let me see some hot ones.
I'm reaping. Fuck that.
Give me some hot ones, Eric. Outlaws 3-0, Shanghai 3-1.
Oh,
Who did Glads
3.
lose? Who did Glads? Oh no, this is winner still. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Shanghai 3-1. Yeah, winners round 3.
Outlaws winning against Spark.
Love
You-
that.
you mad?
Love to see it.
You mad?
Philly getting banged out. Love to see it. That could be losable for Shanghai though. Real talk.
Okay.
3-0.
I don't hate anything.
Atlanta. Yeah, I could see
Atlanta.
that.
Yo-
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know if it's 3-0 for Atlanta.
Yeah, no, I think they.
I mean-
yeah.
Oh, I think he's just put. I think he's
You
just
had
put
him in
it-
fourth, you goof.
Yeah. No, yeah. And London has a good matchup.
Audio
But it's
listeners,
okay.
just let it be known that Germany did just legalize marijuana, so there's a whole lot of blunted smoking out there.
London smoke.
Oh God,
okay,
my country has too much blunted smoking.
It's absolutely
Okay.
nothing to
Shock
do
me-
with what's
shock me,
happening.
Rain.
Rolled up.
Shock beat Eren. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Shock.
Seoul beat Shanghai. I think that's
Seoul
fine.
Seoul wins against Shock. Nah.
Maybe.
Seoul
don't
could
know.
beat Shock.
I think
Again,
I think it's a banger. That's
if
a coin flip
Smurf
for
just
me.
if Smurf just comes out and
Yeah,
just like I mean
he puts hands on him like a fucking
Nah,
like
bro.
a carnival
puts the
raptor.
screws
Nah.
to Kaluge like
Nah.
it's
He's
possible.
touching him.
Nah,
He's
nah,
laying
nah.
the hands of God. on him.
Nah. Like
What
Kilo,
if
Holy
What
Ghost.
if it's like
Kilo
what
has
if it's that
them
moment
cheeks.
where like
Kilo sucks.
No, he doesn't.
You keep his name out
For
your
the
mouth.
sake
you're
of my take, he
you're gonna be
doesn't.
so mad when Sam is playing Sojourn.
The stats lab is out, bro. This kid can't hit a rail for his life.
Well,
I'm over him.
I
Soul lose to
like him
Glads?
to
Okay.
believe that his life is on the line for my take. And then
Soul lose to Glads. Oh wait, where'd we go?
wait, boom. That's our grand final. The Dallas Fuel against the Los Angeles Gladiators.
Oh, you
Glad-
gotta recut it, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see
I
that
could see-
happening.
I mean, I could see it. Yeah, I don't.
I'm mad at that.
I don't hate it, right?
I think that's gonna be a banger though. Like
Please
if
be a
that's the grand
banger.
finals, we
One
get. If
time?
That's the.
It
Oh,
would-
I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
we're due for at least like a decent game. Like the closest we got was like that goofy 4-2 with Shock and
Soul
Soul.
Shock, yeah.
Yeah, where it was just gesture running it down on fucking Hog, just hiding,
Dude, if
comically trying to hide behind bushes and shit.
if I don't get a final where I can see the shattered hearts of the loser on stage
Yes.
and someone has to vacuum that shit up while everyone else is like carried off by their parents, like I'm disappointed. This one's got to be a banger for once, please. It's impossible that Seoul against Shock is still the best grand final we've ever had. Give me a fucking break,
Yeah,
dude.
that one was certainly a grand final.
Violet was robbed. I'll go to the. Go to
I
that on my
agree.
grave.
I agree.
Violet
He was robbed
of
as fuck.
MVP.
That 1v2 that he had on the Zen 1v mwah, Chef's
Yes.
kiss
Yes.
lives in infamy as like one of the best plays we've ever had. Now he's a Lucio player. Unlucky.
By the way, I have it on good authority that everything is decided in terms of the awards now.
Oh,
okay.
okay. Well,
Look out for that.
look out for some awards coming in the. I think they'd probably be on LAN, right? Like they'll just hand them out.
I imagine MVP is going to be handed out.
Yeah, for sure. Before the grand finals, I would guess. But that is going to be it for us for episode 268. Next week may be a little awkward. Let me check what day we get back. I feel like Kenobi and I get back. Yeah, we're not.
Sunday.
We'll not be here. At least I won't be here.
Mm-hmm.
We get
I will
back
also
on
not be
a
here.
weekend, so that is going to be up to Yiska if he wants to put out an episode on
Solo podcast.
Maybe I'll do something like I walk through the woods and talk about esports. We'll see.
Sure.
We'll see.
sure.
With some blunt and smoking.
It doesn't, dude. Like even if we literally like had the legislature figured out and it's printed tomorrow in like our into our law, it takes like probably
I mean, sure.
15 years until we have like some regulations as to what can be in there, like what kind of like fertilizer is allowed to be used, like the wrapping paper is the pH degree like right in it, like we'll figure out some ridiculous safety measures before that ever hits, like, and then we're probably going to have some ridiculous shit as in like, I mean we can smoke it here but we can't grow it, so we got to import it from somewhere, but those like countries where it's imported from also need to keep German safety standards.
Hop over to the Netherlands.
Which means no cow is allowed to fart within 50 meters of the plants. Like, it's so ridiculous, dude.
All right, before he goes on a diatribe about German bureaucracy, we're gonna call it here. 268. Tune in next week. Maybe not. We'll see you at playoffs, and it's been a fun ride. We will see you maybe in the postseason. So stay tuned. Love you. Watch.
Peace.